Tonight, you walked into a room and stopped. Nothing was there. The lights were on. The space was completely empty. And yet something in your chest tightened. Your eyes swept the corners. And for just a fraction of a second, you were convinced something was watching you. Then it passed. You told yourself it was nothing. You were probably right. But the feeling that just moved through your body is one of the oldest signals in the entire history of life on Earth. And understanding where it comes from will change the way you think about your own mind forever. Your brain is not designed to keep you comfortable. It is designed to keep you alive, and those two things, it turns out, are almost always in conflict. The moment you step into an empty room and feel watched, your brain is not malfunctioning. It is doing exactly what it was built to do. The question is why? And the answer stretches back millions of years, to a version of you that never walked on floors or flipped on light switches. Consider this. Your ancestors, the ones who survived long enough to eventually produce you, lived in open environments where predators were real, constant, and silent. A leopard does not announce itself. A snake does not wave. A watching predator is, by definition, a predator you have not seen yet. The creatures that survived were not the most accurate. They were the most paranoid. If your ancestor heard a rustle in tall grass and assumed it was wind when it was actually a lion, that ancestor did not pass on their genes. But if your ancestor heard a rustle in tall grass and assumed it was a predator when it was just the wind, they were startled, they were wrong, and they were alive to make that same mistake 1,000 more times. Evolutionary biologist Robert Trivers described this asymmetry clearly. The cost of a false alarm is low. The cost of missing a real threat is extinction. Natural selection, over millions of years, wired your brain to make the cheap mistake over and over again, because the expensive mistake only happens once. This is where the feeling in the empty room begins. Your brain did not evolve for empty rooms. It evolved for open savannas, dense forests, riverbanks at dusk. In those environments, stillness was suspicious. Silence meant something had gone quiet on purpose. And things that go quiet on purpose usually have teeth. There is a specific neural system responsible for this feeling. It is called the threat detection network, and it is anchored by a small, almond-shaped structure deep inside your brain called the amygdala. This system operates faster than conscious thought. By the time you are aware that something feels wrong, your amygdala has already processed the scene, flagged a potential threat, and sent a chemical signal flooding through your nervous system. You do not decide to feel watched. Your amygdala decides for you. Then it informs you afterward. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux spent decades mapping exactly how this system works, and what he found was remarkable. The amygdala receives raw sensory data before the thinking parts of your brain even have a chance to interpret it. It runs a rapid, low-resolution threat scan, almost like a rough draft, and if anything looks suspicious, it triggers a fear response immediately. The rational explanation comes later, like a note slipped under the door after the alarm has already gone off. In an empty room, your amygdala is scanning for movement in peripheral vision, listening for asymmetric sounds, processing light and shadow at the edges of your visual field. It is searching for the pattern that means predator. And because rooms are full of corners, thresholds, dark areas beyond the light source, and spatial zones you cannot fully see, your amygdala finds plenty of reasons to stay on high alert. But there is a second layer to this experience, and this one is even stranger. Humans are not just prey animals, they are deeply social animals. And for a social species, the presence of other minds is the most important variable in the environment. Whether those other minds are friendly or hostile determines almost everything about survival. So your brain evolved a specialized system, not just for detecting threats in general, but for detecting other minds specifically. Psychologists call this system the theory of mind. It is your brain's ability to model the mental states of other beings, to infer what they want, what they know, what they intend to do. And your theory of mind system is extraordinarily sensitive. It is, in fact, so sensitive that it registers false positives constantly. Cognitive scientist Pascal Boyer has argued that this hypersensitivity to other minds is the reason human beings across every culture in history have believed in invisible watching presences, spirits, gods, ancestors, ghosts. Not because those things exist, but because your brain's mind detection system is tuned so high that it finds evidence of minds everywhere, even in the absence of any actual mind. The feeling of being watched in an empty room is, in part, your theory of mind misfiring. Your brain is detecting an absence of social information and interpreting that absence as hidden social information. Something is there, you just cannot see it yet. This is why darkness intensifies the feeling so dramatically. In the light, your visual system can gather enough data to resolve the uncertainty. You can see the whole room. Your amygdala scans it, finds nothing, and partially stands down. But in darkness or low light, the visual data is incomplete. The uncertainty remains open. And an open uncertainty, to your threat detection network, is functionally the same as a confirmed threat. Your brain would rather assume danger and be wrong than assume safety and be wrong. There is a name for this bias in behavioral science. It is called negative valence bias, and it means your brain assigns more processing weight, more attention, and more memory to potential threats than to neutral or positive information. Psychologist Roy Baumeister summarized it in a now famous phrase, "Bad is stronger than good." The threat hiding in the corner of an empty room will always feel more compelling than the evidence that nothing is there. This also explains something you may have noticed. The feeling of being watched tends to grow the longer you stay in the room. Your threat detection system does not relax with time. It escalates. Because in the ancestral environment, if a threat had not revealed itself yet, that did not mean there was no threat. It meant the threat was still hiding, waiting, watching. And so your system escalates its alert level with each passing second of unresolved ambiguity, not because your rational mind believes there is something there, but because your survival hardware refuses to release the possibility until certainty is achieved. Certainty in an empty room is never fully achieved. There is one more layer, and this might be the one that surprises you most. Researchers studying a phenomenon called gaze detection have found that human beings are extraordinarily accurate at detecting when another person is looking directly at them, even in peripheral vision, even under poor lighting conditions, even when the watching person is partially obscured. This detection is so fast and so precise that scientists believe it operates as a dedicated neural subsystem, almost entirely separate from general visual processing. Neuroscientist Colin Clifford has shown that the brain has a systematic bias toward perceiving eye contact even when it is ambiguous. When you are not sure if something is looking at you, your brain defaults to assuming it is. Because missing eye contact from a predator or a hostile human was, again, the mistake you could not afford to make. This means that in a room with any visual element that even vaguely resembles a face or a pair of eyes, a dark corner with 2 spots of shadow, a mirror catching light, a painting on the wall, your gaze detection system may quietly activate, and your body will respond before your mind has any explanation for why. The feeling is ancient, it is precise, it is built into you with such depth that no amount of rational reassurance fully erases it. So tonight, when you walk into that empty room and stop, and your eyes sweep the corners, and your chest tightens for just a second, know this, that feeling is not a glitch. It is the accumulated survival logic of millions of years. It is the reason your ancestors made it through every dark night they ever faced. The room is empty, you know that. But the part of your brain that kept your ancestors alive has never stopped scanning the dark. And it never will.